everybody. It's good to be back with you this morning. Today, we're going to talk about rules. Now, you might be thinking, oh, I don't want to talk about rules. I don't like rules. Well, let's first of all talk about the different kinds of rules that we have. We have rules from mom and dad. Maybe you have to say please and thank you. You have to clean up your room. You have to get dressed. You have to eat all your vegetables. Whatever the rules are in your house, do you think your mom and dad have those rules just because they can or because they're the boss? Or do they have those rules because they love you and they care about you? That's an easy one, isn't it? They care about you and they want to keep you healthy. They want you to grow up to be strong and they want to keep you safe and well. Then we have rules when we go out into public. For example, when I drive, there's a rule about how fast I can go. That's so that I don't drive too fast and get into an accident. I have to stop at a red light. There's all sorts of rules when you're driving that you have to follow and obey so that you stay safe and that the other drivers are safe when you're driving your car. Then you have rules in school. We have laws in our country, and all of those are to keep us safe. But guess what? God has rules too. Now, do you remember when you were learning how to color, or if you're right now learning how to color, one of those, we can call it a rule, is to stay inside the lines. It's something that we try really hard to do, right? So what happened here? I didn't do such a good job staying in the lines, but what about this one? I tried really, really hard on this one, and you can tell the difference, can't you? Now, sometimes when we try to obey the rules and stay in the lines, our picture might look like this, but if we're doing our best, that's okay. All we can do is our very, very best. I'm going to read you a story this morning about God's rules. Do you think God gave us rules just because He can? Or did He give us rules because He loves us? And He knows more than anybody what's best for us. So the name of this story is The 10 Ways to Be Perfect. Now, you might have heard this story before about the 10 Commandments and Moses. But it's always good to hear some of these stories over and over and over. So, there they all were. Grannies, granddads, babies, uncles, aunts, children, moms, and dads. Out there in the middle of the desert. The desert is not a fun place. They had blisters from all the walking. Have you ever had a blister? They're not fun either. They were hungry, they were thirsty, and much, much too hot. Has your air conditioner ever gone out in the middle of the summer? Or have you been outside in the middle of the summer? It's hot. And does it feel good? Not all the time. We don't like it, they said. It stinks. And so did they, for that matter, because no one had taken a bath in weeks. Can you imagine? Now remember, because this is something they'd forgotten, God had done amazing things for His people. He'd hidden them inside a cloud. He'd moved the sea. Do you remember the story a couple weeks ago about when God parted the sea so they could go through and then He closed it so their enemies couldn't follow them? He'd set them free. But God's people still weren't happy. They didn't care about being free. Wasn't it better when they were slaves? At least they'd had lots of food to eat. God doesn't want us to be happy, they said. Now, do you think that's true? Of course not. It was the same lie that Adam and Eve had heard all those years before. God has brought us out here to kill us. God doesn't love us. But they didn't know God very well, did they? Every day of their journey, God kept showing His people how much He loved them. and how well he would look after them if they would trust him and obey him. When they were hungry, God made the sky rain with food. Remember the manna from heaven? What is it? They asked each other. They didn't know. What is it called? Which, of course, is a very good name for something when you don't know what it is. When they were thirsty and started quarreling, God made water flow from a rock. Remember last week the story about the rock? Moses called that place quarreling. Do you know what a quarrel is? It's an argument. It's when you don't get along. Because that seemed like a good name too. And still God's children didn't trust him or do what he said. They thought they could do a better job of looking after themselves and making themselves happy. But God knew there was no such thing as happiness without him. So God led them to a mountain. God wanted to talk to his people and show them what he was like. He wanted to help them know him better and tell him about the very special land that he was going to give them. The whole earth belongs to me, God said, but I have chosen you. You are my special family. I want you to live in a way that shows everyone else what I'm like, so they can know me too. God called Moses up the mountain. You see Moses up on the mountain? It's very high up. See the people at the bottom? And Moses had to walk all the way up. The great mountain shook. Thunder roared, lightning crackled, and God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. I want you to love me more than anything or anyone else in all the world, and know that I love you too. God told them that is the most important thing of all. God gave them other rules, like don't make yourselves pretend gods. Don't kill people or steal or lie. The rules showed God's people how to live and how to be close to him and how to be happy. They showed how life worked best. God promises to always look after you, Moses said. Will you love him and keep these rules? We can do it, we promise, said the people. Can you do it? But they were wrong. They couldn't do it. No matter how hard they tried, they could never keep God's rules all the time. God knew they couldn't, and he wanted them to know it too. Only one person could keep all the rules. And many years later, God would send him to stand in their place and be perfect for them. Do you know who that is? Yes, it was Jesus. Because rules couldn't save them, only God could. So see, God loves us enough to give us rules, but he knows that we're not perfect and we can't always keep the rules. We make mistakes, but he loves us anyway. And because we love Jesus, we try our best. God bless you, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.